Hello, I want to do this. This is a mind exercise for the entire species volume. Contemplate all the suburban people, from here to Russia, for example, same pathology of homes, as the style forced since before our founding parents' births, with intercolonies A through Z, north and south. As far west as we know, all the database relationships were criminally foreign influence, fabricated stories, in collusion with all identity grounds, directed to be forced, tricked, hurt, persuaded, only let realized, and then all formal positions of identities of titles, jobs, natures of interest, live progressions back to all identities of the ground, having originally instilled with all the things that forced. Everyone missed how it forced also people to blame other things other than themselves, correctly, for correct means, for made up means, simultaneously, for time reasons, because this exploits each age of fact-keeping nature sickly, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously sickly, so effectively to have stayed undiscerned by modern nations A through Z in a semi-ancient trap. Not sourced by one modern nation, but flew into each and maintained undiscerned as one method, easily maintaining defenses of fact-keeping where it counts, where we are fact-keeping nature, as identity, as value, and value as nature simultaneously, and a slash as a relevant element of the quality of the diffusion we are, where 5 bonded identities of sequence nature are, invisible but still discernible, that which English was revealed to teach about. The bonded identities of positive that are invisible but still discernible. The conjunction to them is as themselves, as the identity of the body of forever. Now, what is also evidence of this is how others pretended and believed in the premises treatments and the sequence treatments, how they are reliant upon, recorded overtly / simultaneously, insidiously, criminally foreign influence premises treatments, physical delusion, self-valued again as identity. Identity is a simultaneous nature relationship to the positive and negative simultaneously, in demonstration with all things at once, of where and how, with it, one identity is in demonstration with all exceptions, in exception nature, in demonstration of its identity of relationship to itself, and the value of that. What is not just reality, but is its reality to what is going to cause evolution's fruits and gifts and means out of nowhere answer / or is going to force that away from here. Force space nature transfers itself, only increasing identity of volume / S through this. Before the order of physics came the order of the identity of the body of forever. Again, who denies this? This also is with evidence. See, we have logic forced, entertained, juxtaposed, bonded natures of organized crime against Native Americans A through Z before we were a country, before our founding parents were even born, before their parents were even born. They had these designs for how this is. They designed what is not the whole world. What is tactically denatured. Even the most beautiful parts of the world that aren't overtly tactically denatured. They don't realize how they were denatured, because humanity was taken from our actual natural value progression system, where value has to be attached not just to A or B, good or bad. And in this systems, these are systems other See, and not by accident, all treatments are like theater positive, because we don't have control of things, so we just have to have a theme. Because each science individually grouped and together has maintained this through other, that was originally instilled. Using all, so we'll examine this. But so the mental exercise, for example, is to understand, like, imagine if everyone sent in 3 yards of soil already whenever we need it, we need time for the people who are going to win first in sequence, so we can do this simultaneously as fast as possible. We're going to claim the bottom, but to be able to do it as fact sheet in nature, we have to have not, see what they'll call it, politics and everything like that, because they have sense and sensibilities. For example, to use Jane Austen. I didn't read her book. Maybe we should read this together. I don't know what the rules are on reading people's books on or having a book group on YouTube or anything. I don't know what the rules are on there. If anyone knows, I would appreciate if you could tell me about the rules on if we have a book, we cite it, we say, well, this is from this book, and we read it on here. How much of it could we read or whatever like that? Where would we find that? I don't know. So, but we are a value progression. Each age of fact sheet nature in relationship to, not just to, but of this first identity, all identity grounds, with a crazy breaching method that came since semi-ancient times, since before modern religion's messengers, greatly about this. And since then and now, even the stewards of those religions recorded many ways preventing free speech. If anyone wants to make proper sequence treatments about what they're actually speaking about with the beginning of the Quran, with the beginning of the Old Testament, and those sequences backwards and forwards simultaneously. See how time has 3 identities, semi-natures, like a cell nucleus, cell body, cell wall. But time has the part of time that you know is true about the past, but is not here. Time has the part of now you know is true, but is not here. Completely. I mean, to the extent you know is true now, and you know to an extent about time will come, but you don't know the extent you don't. And there's an extent you know that there's an extent you don't too, though. So you could also discern these other semi-natures existing. For example. So that Trinity is also with 2 identities of sequence nature, semi-nature, in summary. Which is relevant always. This is bigger than math. What the algorithm is. Algorithm /S. And that slash. That which is per a book by Mr. From Microsoft, Mr. Gates, about how they have to make a language. In other words, the elements for hardware of a computer, the computer software and the hardware coding is distinct. And maybe not to the extent that if you're using the same coding for software, capable of both. But they have to. Anything has to. We are a value progression. We has to label the elements coming through the computer's circuit. The electricity from the wall. And then see know how like if you have a phone, you have a computer, you have a router, the IDs with everything communicating. Can't help. This is IDs course though, but tactical ulterior, which everyone's a victim of this, which has nothing to do with opinions and stuff like this. In other words, there's a sequence. They're not following mandated law outside of courts. The law is not, it is against the law to pretend people should sue for types of rights or pieces of their rights being abused. When they are recorded, also it is against the law to have interbranch stacking predicate acts against people, attaching them to fake locations, coordinating illusions through time more and more, roles, needs, natures, and collusion hiding uses of corners, locations on off schools, connected through time. Like both corners on Highcrest Street, recorded, confessed, demonstrated. I didn't have anything to do with them. They sought me out to make confessions about investigators and investigations, criminally foreign influence, and pretending to be other, with people tied to Central Connecticut State University, with from off the campus though. They also have how they're using identity of people's sensibilities again, of fact treatment nature, of sequence treatment, of identity treatment. Now they're being these are originally still they kept them needing to hide live progressions vertically and horizontally because they've been stacking predicate acts in databases. There were officers from East Hartford recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, like Officer Magnanos, who they switched their names intercities with different police with falsified arrest, beginning with a promise to appear. And with I was in arrest, I was taken off campus. They put a whole bunch of they attached me a whole bunch of fake things through time, the same campus. But from off the campus, same people involved with World Trade Center, predicate acts, clicks, and roles with dozens of people from the New Britain Superior Court, with a principal child offenders campus, the corners of that street through time, like with an O'Brien family, also involved with them with predicate acts through time, with relevant, which are illusions, no, and roles with extortion, and worse than that, on off the locations of the campuses of each age and nature intercities, connected, and their uses of that connected, and their roles with the uses of that by a method that has that originally and still has the obligations of humanity as correlation nature, to use logic per other than it has been afforded. Now, so we have to examine what is actually recorded. So they tell people to rely on other people's information, and then they just keep speaking anyway because it's not their job. So this is they employed nature of fake positive. I'm not a lawyer, not police form, not criminal lawyers. They employed same roles with what our founders left us to have free speech of equality. That is free speech and truth and honesty, to have freedom of religion. They have religions on off their spots in collusion with all kinds of medical organized crime. That various natures of courts and all the natures of courts individually grouped together with the police forms individually grouped together with all identities of the law. Criminally foreign influence, delusions raw, victims, victim predators employed, where and as and how it counts, to defenses of manifest force to be, styles of fact treatment nature that way. In many pray. The simultaneously self-valued corruption, individual grouped and together, every modern nation at once, sickly hurt, so sickly manifest differently. Effectively to have kept and keep easily undiscerned by every modern nation, how non-distinctly we have the same thing to counter, but it's self-value. So the only podiums can't handle that. Too late by the time they get it. Even the people it helps. Humanity is in an identity of negative value nature progression. And heaven and hell were revealed as scientific algebraic variables in relationship to how we are temporary positive, and how temporary positive could be criminal and seditious nature. You can't legalize it the way it was legalized. Then they had the self-value. The real cause of blaming of negative value nature progression acts and natures on other things, on others, and on selves, even when correctly. Doing so also wrongly, because that's not really the causes. And everyone is a victim, and that's left out, and everyone's then victim with a self-value rolls with, which is database oriented, but it is further originally and still with all locations, with uses of the life progressions themselves, all investigations and investigators using all kinds of crimes to hide their roles with other ones, to hide the roles when investigations they were asked about things, what they would actually be shown as, when reality is shown, because they were asked questions about things. Things. That's why we have a whole bunch of people from Central Connecticut State University through time recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with a whole bunch of Wethersfield police individually grouped in together, maintain victims, but victim predators offensively, so you have to refer to them as predators. So then they have the identity of police, which we have to, rolls with the extortion of people, rolls with the natures of organized crime that they call things like politics, to have nothing to do with politics. There's Detective Samuto who came into New Britain Superior Court and recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. He was never an arresting officer of me. He also said I was in a hospital by the police, by him, or whatever like that. He also is with like a whole bunch of people in the New Britain Superior Court, and with prosecutors and their family members, also involved with the principal child offenders and people on the child sex offender registry, involved with their predicate acts there, with roles with that, and with military police, also with wire crime roles and methods, and with the people with the courts forging and switching names, and so what. So we need to have a place. They put me on video, recorded on off the Wethersfield Police Department with 2 Mendez police. Also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated by people at Central Connecticut State University, involved with their roles with various natures of predicate acts, and roles with the interbranch with areas crimes, not just with investigators and investigations, but their uses of real estate crimes, and like roles with, so they can bring things to courts, so they can use the courts as weapons, because they've been fabricating informations in courts originally and still. They've been doing it, but they have all the programs with the kids. They have all our, where we're going to drive, where we're going to walk. They have that involved with identity thefts, human trafficking, bridge, illusion. They have maintenance to styles of opinion natures, of conviction natures, that simultaneously can't defend themselves and afford to have someone ask for mandated law. Their sensibilities are sick. Then the same people need the. But we're just following themes. These are great things. The news. How critical the news is, we wouldn't even know what's going on in the world. We wouldn't, But that's why we have to separate originally still all private. How their roles, all interbranch, individually grouped together, still manifest clear as day. Crime methods recorded every day in courts, every day leading up to courts. They have, but this is easy to see. We have to use what's actually facts. Which is also recorded. They're employed offensively to make pretended care about facts. Words like facts and facts, fact treatments. Well, that's my phrasing. But facts facts, whatever their agenda, the words like facts and truth. Now, and data. This is critical to know data and stuff like that. But we have the word uses the words data applied to too many natures of fact-cheaping nature, influenced fact-cheaping nature, per their roles defending themselves as identities, while they have all these pseudo medical people with various natures of courts and people hiding lipoaggressions with them. Per roles originally still with mental diagnosis, 100 nations sick with each other at once. Defending only means to hide from their lipoaggressions, also self-valuing further and further. Collusion with what keeps that the outcome back to all locations. This is relevant to how and why the identity, the ground, pathologies that was recorded involved with the fact-cheaping nature, torture of, and slavery of our founding parents. How it was not, was it is offensively prevented free speech, while offensively, criminally, most people, everyone not realizing how, but until too late. But there need to be self-value, fake positive. In other words, real positive, but positive fake. Used for, in other words, inclusion. In our sense and sensibilities, that will not allow demonstration of that. And where our strangers are making opinions about what others say. Like when they say, follow mandated law, which we're all going to have together, the species. We could do it if we, in other words, we have the means to admit, just admitting modern nations messed up all these ways. In other words, we make the bottom, where if we hide, we have so much means to space, to afford means individual. This is a system that made it so not anyone individually grouped it together would be able to afford, trying to afford what we actually could be afforded and realized and self-generating more value out of nowhere means. So we'll help each city. So we could have them that we could bring order, not just order. There are 5 identities of order simultaneously, and that's the system. But see, we have fake righteous justice, fake righteous negative value nature, fake righteous positive criminal ceaseless nature. And the Trinity prevented free speech and correlation nature's course in words, the way of things, boxings, the sciences share an identity. So, free speech. So what they do is they have been putting fake transcripts and fake descriptions of video that they've been making up. Former director of the FBI has also recorded many ways with a bunch of federal criminals associated with the database, predicate acts, and illusions roles with each of the campuses I went to. This is recorded effectively, preventing people from speaking about what is positive about each age and location, unless they're gonna do it as fake. In other words, this is relevant to their roles also with simultaneously with this method of and nature of identity thefts, frauds, and worse. That is relevant, clear as day, when anyone makes some opinion about what made slavery, when it's not this. It was that breaching organized crime method, clear as day. It's not one thing. It's bonded roles motivations, natures, needs, interests of criminal and seditious natures for us to be. But it's not it's what we can't control. Follow mandated law. See, they're pretending that the physically manifest value as nature, nature as value, with slash value too, of the branches of government. See, they don't learn it this way though. They're backed into self-value roles with criminal as a criminal enterprise. Same way with the overt criminal enterprises. Most further semi by what is inclusion has both that inclusion with them itself, has private inclusion with itself. Clear as day. Involved also with a database, vertical and horizontal, intercampuses and intersciences further. The database is private at the same time, kept live progressions back to all spots. It knew that this and how this would keep happening, because it's using the identity of volume, self-value, as a criminal seditious nature. Okay, which identity's nature, again, is the positive and negative, is in demonstration of where positive will only come through. It needs more and more of itself. The body of everything at once, that is only increasing the identity of volume it is. It's all right if someone has opinion of it. It's all right if someone wants to quote sciences. But those sciences are still criminally foreign influenced and delusions wrought specifically so people could quote that and get away with it. So we're going to examine, for example, real sick methods like what they said about what, I don't have the sources recorded, but let's stay on the positive, and let's make this. Let's make one imaginary borough, and then we'll have a contest, and whoever loses the contest, for the first borough, will get packed up, ready to have the means to work. Everything will be so small for what we're going to build. We're going to make space, but we have to do it when we have to be native pure. So we have to imagine and we have to imagine how a lot of kids and their families from like New York, from other countries, how they have it real bad in the city. It was designed by this since before cars. It was designed to have cause negative value nature progressions, acts of nature, so they could effectively, having invested human fact sheeping nature needs to fact sheeping nature respond to the real causes of those negative value nature progressions, acts of nature, not realizing how they were being employed to a breaching method roles. Using human fact-sheeping nature. We have to go by the science of why we are individual, grouped, and together. Species, body, of volume, simultaneously. Everything together, in summary, is in demonstration of the identity of the body of forever as an identity of volume. Each identity of volume, of sub-volume of itself, is has a distinct identity of relationship to itself. Everything is in demonstration of how one identity has a distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous identity of relationship to itself. I mean, identity is an identity. It is an identity of relationship to itself, and is the value of that, which is increasing as the slash and as the other two bonded parts, bonded and not, together the same way. Everything is manifest. Individual as a trinity also. This is why and how properly it should be taught about how and why. For example, Yale's website, Yale University, they have Jesus Christ has a halo behind his head. And there's an A on the left side, and there's a W on the right side. This is how the ancients would teach. See, Jesus came and said latter saying in ancient times. This just reminds. The republic for which we stand that was revealed by ancients, its database relationships, the concentrated value slash value progression slash quality of diffusion of each age and nature of campus. This came from the Campus Martius in ancient times. That which was criminally fought was everyone was tricked. They denatured the human fact sheet in nature with an archetypal criminal enterprise that knew that the human fact sheet in nature would have to respond to the hostage of the value of internation sciences, value slash value progression, and that value relevant to each individual grouping together. Because this is the species science is bigger than, while smaller than, and while completely the value of that. See, but the species science, nature's identity science, identity simultaneous relationship. This is why the beginning of the Old Testament starts the way it does. This is positive. The identity of value progression is coming through. This is about, and this is why the Old Testament says all you have to understand is to this part up here, right here. They also recorded messengers were aware that we're supposed to demonstrate with the first part of the Quran and first part of the Old Testament that and how the stewards of the religions are still in collusion with everyone else, preventing mandated law, rolls with using as truth lies in regard to the identity of the value of the branches of government, the value of private people, the value of identity, ground locations, roles, communications with people. Oh, but this is a good person. That's not. That is, no one's. You don't see this till you see it. So intercities, colleges, and this is we'll also examine down the street from the Harriet Beecher Stowe House, Mark Twain House. Harriet Beecher Stowe note with the phrase in the concept of Jim Crow and the identity positions with that as a victim. I'm going to show this is also about how her victim reactions, forced, tricked, hurt, persuaded, unrealized, how they were used, everyone's. This is science. So what are people aware that no one's going to allow people to use simple sentence? Let me counter this or that. Like, in other words, New Britain Superior Court with rape threats. Is more complicated than that because before the World Trade Center, and those rape threats were recorded with 2 families on the Child Offender Registry, involved with other natures of organized crime, and more people involved with various natures of organized crime with each age of fact sheet nature. And how that is with medical databases that have nothing, the psychiatry and psychology and the fact sheet nature difference when used by people. They're being using it criminally always. In other words, these people have been all kinds of natures with lawyers too originally and still. Now, forging names, switching names roles, physical delusion, self-valued, which is relevant too because they have roles with identity theft, frauds, and criminal readings of statutes that leave that out and this out, how they've been So we have criminal readings of statutes, and we have criminal nature of statutes, manifest, self-value, and that exploited them only capable of being vertical increasing identities of roles in collusion with and as that criminally foreign influence, blaming others themselves for that which is offensively, insidiously, and simultaneously, overtly. Misprision needed covered up simultaneously. Private, overt criminal enterprises juxtaposed with this, with the branches of government, and kept needing to hide the same finite sequence shifts, finite active progressive lives, identity thefts, frauds, and worse than war crimes roles. This is where we are fact-chipping nature. Forgiveness was so we could have free speech, so we could demonstrate how the sequence shifting styles, self-value, are manifest opinions and uses of the Quran and of the Old Testament read out of sequence. So they make treatments about what is positive or negative as criminal and serious natures. Oh, this is all we can control, though. These are, because you read the same. We'll examine how when you and why when you add the E to Santa Claus, it becomes Santa Claus, which is relevant to to predicate discernment with English grammar, which is relevant to identity to English grammar, which is relevant to identity, which is relevant to a predicate act with the law, which is relevant to criminal seditious nature of identity. So they legalized criminal and seditious natures. What backed everyone into self-value rules with the identity, the ground part of way worse, but way worse, more and more collusion with it, unceased, increased, and perfected, all interbranch, all database relationships roles. We have behavior predators, interbranch, and the people at once together, opinion natures, and military, foreign, and domestic, and private and overt criminal enterprise juxtaposed, and the witness protection program, all involved with the same predicate acts. To the same House/S were involved with them with the same recorded means to actually recorded, which is uses of through time connected vertical and horizontal on-off campuses, like both corners of Highcrest Street are with an O'Brien family and with a CM Faglione family, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with predicate acts with New Britain Superior Court leading up to, and since with investigators used offensively to pretend things in the databases tied to their confession. I never had a class with them when they were in my grammar school. These are people involved with the database crime, spreading rumors about lies between people, making wars between people, even nations. These are people involved with Washington, D.C. roles, with fact treatment. Let's make a theme for what we have to be able to respond when there's injustice problems. These are the people roles with the overt criminal enterprises, the branches of government, as the ones further with the principal child offender, other natures of on-off campuses connected, juxtaposed natures of sustained, natures of sick crimes and organized crimes, natures of organized crime and influences with the kids, and sequence shift roles, common as one of the things that are shared by everybody. individually grouped and together, are sequence shifts with areas, locations, interbranch Connecticut and on off the campuses of each age and nature, and private databases as what is actually recorded. That which is actually relevant to further recorded roles with extortion methods and predicate acts and sequence shifts affected further from inside courts and from outside on off the locations used for predicate acts, used for crimes sicker than what they destroyed people's lives for already. So they have to hide that. That was kept in outcome. The prisons tied to them are also kept needing to hide from people's means to connect actually recorded finite, sequence true, active true, progressive true, and identities complete. Freedom, free speech. So they have a number of ways. So wherever they are, this method has them invested too already, to simultaneously doing things to hide the misprision. In other words, like pretending to be for things they are against, as victims, but as victim predators. And we have victim predator. Only predators are allowed to make opinions, while everyone's preventing mandated law outside of courts, which is required to free ourselves, because the courts are already maintained criminally foreign influence, involved with stacking, forging names, switching names, use of their locations to fabricate information, fabricate data, fake recorded things with the other branches of government, individually grouped and together, crime methods, like switching names. Individually, that's together, they do things like switch names, forge switch sequences, on and off their location, mail crime, a whole bunch of other nations kept and keep this the outcome. A whole bunch of people associated with the Morrow families, intercities. So they also pretend they don't want people to use names online, and these are the people that were recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with the courts influenced them to the roles with that. Those people sought me out for that. Then they leave out other confessions, demonstrations with other people. I don't know them. These are people further involved with this Joshua Julian too, with interbranch Facebook pages and with the Facebook pages of the child campuses, with sexually themed crimes that are simultaneously crimes with overt criminal enterprises, in them simultaneously pretending to be against it. Like with the Joshua Julian, with the same people with the courts, dozens of people from the Britain Superior Court alone involved with Joshua Julian, with two sex offenders' families, further involved with the Dr. Zeman, with more people recorded involved with him on and off the Wethersfield Library, and on and off Hartford Hospital, involved with drug crimes with them, and with predicate acts with them, mail crime, wire crimes, and with the Leahy family. Now these are also people with the Wethersfield police, like two Mendez police, also with the Morrow families, different kinds of police, with federal criminal code defendants, FBI, Robert Luskin. Their roles with falsified transcripts about what is actually recorded over Facebook, what is actually recorded over emails with police, what is actually recorded on and off their locations, like these two Mendez police, attaching me to fake conversation with the older one on the police department, fake descriptions of video that was never existed. Never had one word of a conversation with him. Now, they were also involved with Facebook. They're involved with the area crimes, with the police of Facebook. Also used roles with the remote uses of Congress, remote uses of each branch of government. All victim predators, individually grouped and together. So they have, this is especially a linguistic tie, because they're making it like people can't speak. But it's really because of how they're keeping each identity the ground location, self-valued by people with fact treatments in relationship to investigations. The investigations used to invest fact treatments of other people's identities, where and how the interbranch were also, and the overt criminal enterprises kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, finite active lies, progressive lies, identity thefts, frauds, roles. Different interests, but as the same ones. Same uses of the identity ground, locations in relationship to the value progression. That breaching method that maintained everyone to be increasingly, simultaneously, insidious, fake positive, and insidiously evil, and overtly evil at the same time in relationship to those breaching method laws that American history is really about. Offensively, what is lying about and needing to pretend other, for uses of all identities of everything. Needs to pretend to others simultaneously, the misprision, individually grouped and together, each person of each branch's locations. They are recorded sick as fact sheet in nature, just like a virus. I'm not a lawyer, not a doctor, not a police form. They are recorded pretending that knowing the law means they have the right to stack databases and with predicate acts and with wrongdoing and sequence shifts and identity thefts, frauds, and racketeering, trick, fact-shaping nature, punk games, roles. Originally still. That's what they did, clear as day, with those crazy laws. With their simultaneously overt and insidious treatments of uses of teaching about what Jim Crow laws are about, to prevent from discernment that which is sickly distinctly and sickly non-distinctly, how it is actually upon all people, especially the people most forsaken, as that is actually relevant evidence. So we have treatments of words like evidence and facts and truth and sequence that leave out the sequence shifts. Everywhere there's sequence shifts, they have worse recorded. Illusions positing. Many natures of predicate acts, roles, are demonstrably all a completely fact treatment nature oriented. Sequence treatment nature oriented. Positive and negative treatment nature oriented. Also oriented in relationship to this recorded with sustained the same families through time, interbranch, involved with Central Connecticut State University, intercities, interbranch from Wethersfield, involved with prosecutors and judges, involved with the corners of the principal child defender's campus, and houses in the area. And next to other schools, further recorded and confessed and demonstrated their roles with forging names, switching names, crimes with untimely deaths, locations, and people involved with that, drug crimes with each age of fact shaping nature sickly distinctly, as roles with them, as people with badges and with doctors of medicine for the mind. Were recorded and involved with a whole bunch of natures of organized crime, forging names, switching names, fabrications, predicate acts and cases, and with roles, uses of depositions by crime methods, recorded again where they have the vertical and horizontal line progressions from each database relationship. So, we have the greater the negatives, the greater it is to see how and where the positives are being exploited, and where and how what's pretending to do that is offensively having needed and having facilitated all kinds of theater positive treatments. People saying, "Oh, well, you can't change the world." Then they pretend to be for things. You know, there's so many people we could reach out to. We have to fax check. All that is recorded. They are recorded the uses of interbranch locations to fabricate information. Because the people who blocked me from defending myself and each age of fact treatment nature from their recorded, confessed, and demonstrated impositions sustained on them. So then people don't want to talk about that. They hurt all the women in the area. I didn't have to bring you guys up. These are police. Please make sure I get them to pick one name and sequence it to branch, Wethersfield, Connecticut. And don't speak through other people. See, that's another thing that we're involved with the organized crime that this Dillon family is involved with foreign and domestic military, and with Saudi families. They're recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, and forced to ignore. And they'll demonstrate this to you. No one's denying this. These are people that are military police. Uses of identity, fake care for identity, simultaneously worse than war crimes roles. So people associated with, they also have how they have the intimate connections between people. Like Eric Burgess and his mother with people with a church down the street from her, in that park. Then they have the sensibilities, all the people investigators. Of all the different private interbranch, private connected to interbranch, all maintain fact treatment nature collusion, needing to hide from proofs of that. When more investigations keep coming and coming, of course they're going to keep coming. When more and more identities of negative value nature progressions, action natures are realized. So they have what is intercities along routes tied to the interbranch uses of their locations to stack predicate acts against people into fake recorded things, forging names, switching names. Crime rolls with a method that prevents any fact treatment nature counter, because their use is also of the recorded, confessed, and demonstrated by kids through time. Rolls intercities with people in collusion with identity thefts and frauds on off Central Connecticut State University. That is relevant to them pretending that they have legitimate rights to be undercover and train undercover, foreign and domestic, or whatever they're doing with the prison cliques and things like that and all that. Plainclothes officers, people involved, all with predicate acts on the campuses of each age and nature, intercities, all connected with a house on my street, connected to the nature of those verbal predicate acts. Also as one involved with the interbranch families, dozens of people from the Britain Superior Court, dozens of people associated with the Wethersfield Police Department. And they recorded, confessed, and demonstrated they use pretending they don't know about what other people did and say. So they name stack. Then as part of their roles with extortion, forging names, switching names. Now, they're also threatening people not to use other people's names criminally, knowing that they have involvement with them criminally, pretending to bring in their family members into it so they can pretend to be against that. That's why they pretend passions and emotions, committing predicate acts. That was the real motivation of it. Those people sought me out. Why should I hide what other people demonstrated, confessed, and recorded through time, which I tried. Yeah, now I understand it though. I understood it when I was a kid that whatever you have to speak through other people, and there's a fake conversation going on, and it's being put into databases. And if you respond to one part of it, they adapt to your response. And they force you to entertain fake positive as criminal and seditious nature and fake righteous justice. Or they hurt you. Verbally, behind your back too. In relationship to that stacking with databases, private and interbranch simultaneously, and overt criminal enterprises and private ones in collusion, further and further to all identity ground locations. clear as day, is recorded. So they prevent mandated law, and they pretend other. They have to pretend other with misprision predators into branch. So they can't defend themselves and discern what we're going to discern. New York Borough. And 3 stacked people housing projects. And the people next to you. This plan is to set them up with this game/S, which only feels like games because evolution science reveals evolution's fruits and gifts and Santa's real means by what is good and bad and positive and negative, not its criminal and seditious nature. And it is native pure. Bach sings. It teaches things. Behold. So, we'll learn. We'll put something forth. We have to have it all transparent. And then we have to have the contest for who's going to, which housing project could agree to work together first. But simultaneously, anyone that tries to will succeed. The rest recede. So, see how they don't have the... See, I saw one person with great mask. You know what else they need to do? Have a spray bottle of alcohol. And we could plant the stuff to make the alcohol throughout the country. We could do things to separate it from the fact human nature illness humanity is with. That is also an identity of grounds, identity of value progression, relationship to our quality of fact, human nature, invisible but still discernible. So where and how it is self-valued, criminally legalized, criminal and seditious nature roles. Needs to hide life progressions, means to get away with that. Not by accident, right there with the natures of people involved with means to do that. Right to all locations, on and off campuses, connected. So there's a Phil Cololo associated with a Bob Chase and forensics locations. And people involved with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso, with the Faenza family, and with newspaper people and police forms on and off their locations, and military involved with database crimes connected, and roles with lie progressions, acting illusions next to that, use roles with investigations and investigators used criminally to hide their lie progressions. These are people roles with trade center predicate acts clicks, like a Dillon family, involved with predicate acts on my street, and they recorded, confessed, and demonstrated it's tied to a whole bunch of people on Two Ride Highway and on and off them. Also with the people on and off the state of Connecticut judicial branch offices, with this Faenza family, and on and off Fox Connecticut News, on and off WFSB, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with predicate acts roles with them, and methods where everyone's forced to speak through others, and WFSB and them keep stacking us attached to fake recorded words. They also did this with 2 Mendez police involved with attaching me to fake conversation with the older Mendez police brother, also involved with the younger one on and off New Britain Superior Court with predicate acts, identity theft, crime roles, and a whole bunch of people confessed and recorded, demonstrated them involved with predicate acts, identity thefts, attaching me to fake locations through time. And like there's a Yagman family. I never saw them in front of the Yagmans at the same time, except for in the video, and I wasn't there when they filmed it. I was implied that they pretended other. I never had a class with the Eric Mendez, so they've been putting fake video and fake recorded things on and off interbranch locations with many tied to them, They're also with two men two domain people, and a whole domain family, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated